Greetings and welcome to the Ripple Effect. I am Selena. So, today's topic might be a little controversial. I don't know, but it's something that I did want to talk about. And it's about us, human beings, people, Christians, about us blaming God for our life circumstances. Um, I wanted to talk about when we feel angry and we want to say that how our life has turned out, it is all God's fault. I had this conversation with a family member many, probably over a decade ago, about if God knew what was going to happen, then why did he create us? Now, just for clarification purposes, I'm no theologian, okay? But I do be in that word. So, if God knew what was going to happen, why did he create Satan? And our lives are suffering because of that, which is correct. Now, what we have to understand, especially for us and the heavenly realm, okay, let's not get deep for you. We all have free choice. Let that sink in, okay? And if you're going to say, you know what, I didn't have free choice when something bad happened to me, when I was abused, or I didn't have good parents growing up, or the person left me or cheated on me, just a plethora of reasons of why people are saying their life circumstances are not the best. And we have to understand that we are one living in a sinful world. And not everything that happens is because of God. Now, God has a permissive will where things are allowed to happen. But if you're stuck in a relationship that you're unhappy in, that you're being cheated on in, that is free will. That is your choice. And so also, just to break it down a little bit further. Now, if we were in heaven's sake when things happened, just saying we were there, okay? And we're witnessing what's going on. If you don't know the word, Satan, Lucifer, when he was in heaven, he had an opportunity to have free will. So he had free will and he chose, okay, to live a life contrary to what God orchestrated. Lucifer was created. He is not part of the Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. So Lucifer wanted to be like God. He wanted to be like the Most High. He wanted to receive worship. And because he could not, okay, he convinced 1/3 of the angels, we don't know the number, 1/3 of them to join his army, because there was war in heaven if you read Revelations. And he talked about wanting to, I guess, what do you call it? A coup, I think. Overthrow heaven, I guess, trying to take God's place, and he couldn't. So he was banished to earth, where we are. Okay, and if this is getting too deep, it's okay. Stay. It's all right. And so because of that, he has free choice just like we do. And so we are tempted sometimes when things don't go our way to blame God. And I can attest, okay, I'll be the first one to say, there are times when I've looked at my life book, Jesus, on chapter 4, you missed it. You missed it. I don't know what happened, but my life at this point, I don't like it. And so when I was experiencing those different trials and tribulations, especially when I was going through my toxic marriage, let me get real, okay? I'm not going to play no games. I'm going to go ahead and tell it like it is, okay? Now, there was a situation many years ago when I was married. And so me and my ex, DB, the devil's brother, okay, we were having a conversation in the kitchen. Now, while we were in the kitchen, he said something off the wall and out of pocket. And so I was tempted to say something. And as I was pausing within my thoughts, okay, formulating my comeback, I thought, just a little train of thought that ran across my mind. And God spoke to me very clearly. You chose him. Oh, Did that hurt my spirit? I could not believe it. And so I had to think, like, wait a minute. What you mean I chose him? Like I did? Oh, it was clear that I did not wait. I was not in my prayer closet before I decided to enter into covenant into this marriage, this debacle of a relationship. And in that moment, God was so clear when he spoke to me and said that I had chosen this individual. And I told him what God said. He laughed it off just like I did. And I didn't really put too much thought into it until after, until really starting to pray for healing and understanding my life choices. And so I went back and thought about what God said. And like I said before in previous videos, I was young. I didn't really understand covenant. There wasn't a good Bible teacher in the church where I attended who talked about marriage, who had talked about covenant, who talked about being content in your singleness. They just left, what's a better way? They dropped the ball in a sense of educating ladies, even men in the church, about relationship and about covenant. And if you're thinking like, oh, your parents should have told you, did your parents tell you? Okay. There you go. That's enough for you. So there are times when not all of us are educated as well as we should be, regardless of the situation. Could have been our parents did not tell us, or we grew up in a really strict church. Whatever your life story is, where someone could have told you something that could have prevented you from making a decision. And while I was going through the relationship, just to backtrack, we did premarital counseling. So it was the blind leading the blind. The pastor, let me see, Bishop Watkins, okay? That's not his real name, in case y'all want to try and Google it and look it up. Bishop Watkins, okay? And if you see this, may God help you. Because when we were going through premarital counseling, there were issues that arose where later on I was able to see the pastor should have stepped in, should have made things clear. And at the time, he was young. I don't even know, I think he was younger than I was. And like I said, I was a little bit younger when I was getting married. And so, to me, there was one thing, I'm going to go ahead and put this PSA out there, okay? A pastor is not a marital therapist. Yes, I said it and I meant it, okay? He is not, or she is not, a marital therapist. There is someone who goes to school for therapy and learns how to operate in that area. Now, yes, if you're a Christian, which I am, I'm not knocking premarital counseling, nor going to your pastor or bishop, whatever you may call them, to seek therapy. However, there was a level of skill and education that a pastor, unless he has been educated in that area or God has called him to it, is going to be able to educate you in your marriage. And so, like I said, Bishop Watkins was not as old as I was, so he didn't have wisdom there. His child was younger than my child, so he could not educate me there as in how to raise my child. Then, okay, I'm gonna tell you something. I'm starting to perspirate. The truth is just coming out. So Bishop Watkins, this was after I got married. And I know I'm tangenting a bit, but it all comes in together with blaming God for something. Because I was upset and I blamed God for the lack of guidance that a man of God was supposed to have. And that's being real, true, bloody, raw, honest. So one day, we were having praise and worshiping at the church. I was practicing on the praise team. So the pastor took us out to eat, okay? And his wife was of a particular nationality, and We were conversing at the table, I think talking about relationships or something. So I'll just say his wife, because in case they watch, I don't know, it could be people from church who all of my videos who might run back and tell, but it's the truth anyhow, and come see me. So he says at the table, okay, amongst a bunch of us, people from ABC country, I won't say what country it was, I always thought those women were ugly. Now, mind you, his wife is from ABC country. So when I knew that he could speak about his wife in front of her face, in front of all of us at the table, and say that her particular country, her particular women from that country were ugly, oh no, the lack of disrespect that he showed her, and yet you're trying to guide me in my marriage? Oh no. So I knew then that I must have a direct line to the Father himself. Not to put a man, pastor, bishop, reverend, whatever you want to call him, priest, in between me and God the Father. There should be nobody in that spot. God is supposed to rest on the throne of our heart. No man should ever take that place. And so for some of us, when things happen in our life, we're so quick to blame God when we don't take the time to take a step back and realize, have we made decisions and choices that have produced an outcome that we don't like? We have to be willing to admit that, because some of us want to take the easy way out and be like, oh, it's my mama fault, it's my daddy fault, it's my sister fault, it's my brother fault, it's everybody's fault but yours. And you want to say it and lay it at God's plate and say, well, God did this to me. God gave me this type of life. And we have to understand that we are living in a world that is sinful. There are going to be things that's unpleasant. There are going to be good people who die, good people who have terrible things happen to them. And it's not because it is God's fault. It is because we are living in a time where there is sin and there is evil and there is wickedness. If we look at just the television or social media, we can see the prevalence of these things before our eyes. And sometimes we get so caught up in just the little things like, oh, this relationship is terrible, this job is terrible, well, I'm just going to blame God. I'm going to hate God, so I'm not going to pray. I'm not going to have worship. I'm going to stop going to church. All these things. And when God is the answer, understand that. He is the answer to bring healing, to bring peace that passes all understanding. And for me, in my personal testimony that I'm trying to tell you and hope you understand, after the divorce, I had to take time to heal, to really get myself together and wonder why things in my life has happened in such a way. I apologize. Somebody was trying to call me. But I had to understand why these things happened to me, that I had complete choice over. I have no choice over my parents. I have no choice over how people necessarily treat me. But I do have control over if I'm going to continue to allow this person to be a part of my life. Some of us think that we should, when we forgive a person, it means reconciliation, and it does not. It can for those of people who really want that person to be in their life. But if I'm wounded and you have done something intentionally to hurt me, you're no part of Lena Land anymore. Sorry. Goodbye. Catch the bus elsewhere, because you're no longer welcome in my world. And sometimes we have to be willing to take responsibility over our actions. We can't be so short-sighted and let the devil convince us to join his team and be against God. Because at the end of the day, God is not the one to blame. He's the one to save. So as always, ladies, thank you so much for watching.